2012, Japan laid claim to a string of 8 tiny uninhabited islands by buying them from a private owner. The problem is, China and Taiwan also lay claim to those same islands. Recently, this territorial dispute has become a volatile issue, and one that some reporters have even suggested could trigger another world war. Obviously, that's a pretty unlikely scenario, but it does raise the question, how powerful is Japan? Well, Japan is an economic giant, but they also have a stunted military. The CIA reports that by design, they spend only 1% of their total GDP on national defense. After World War II, the Allied forces made Japan revise their constitution and add an article stating that the Japanese people forever renounce war as a sovereign right of the nation and the threat or use of force as a means of settling international disputes. Then, in the 1960s, to further solidify that mandate, Japan and the US signed the Treaty of Mutual Cooperation and Security, which gave assurance to Japan that the United States would defend them against any threats. It also gave the US access to and control over a few military bases on Japanese land. So that's why Japan's military is currently so small. They have approximately 250,000 active military personnel, which ranks them 22nd in active military manpower. So does this mean Japan isn't powerful? No. Economically and politically, Japan is a global leader. Their GDP, which is valued at almost $6 trillion, ranks 3rd in the world. Huge tech and machinery companies like Mitsubishi, Kawasaki, and Toshiba produce some of the finest electronics, automobiles, and military gear on the market. They also have enormous political power. They provide 11% of the UN's budget, making them second only to the US in that respect, and they have extremely close ties with the United States. Plus, their economy has remained strong despite multiple recessions, as well as the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster. If Japan were to expand their military, they would surely become an international superpower. But as of now, that doesn't seem like a real possibility, as recent polls show the majority of Japanese citizens prefer their current military arrangement.
遠くに見える大きな山優しく光る美しい川渡る橋が僕らをつなぐオードナロード街には僕らの大好きなブレックファストファンキーなアイスクリームCrazy なドーナツ夜には街がビールに酔いしれるオーロナロードオーロナロードオーロナロードみんな君を待っているよ街の隠れ家僕らは歌うよこの世界
Welcome to Vietnam, the land of miracles. Vietnam, a country with a history that goes back thousands of years, is blessed by Mother Nature with heart-touching, magnificent landscapes. With unique values of biodiversity, culture and architecture, being home to 8 UNESCO-recognised World Natural Heritages, Vietnam comes across as a top attractive tourist destination in Southeast Asia. A mystical, dreamy and elegant Ha Long Bay. An ancient and poetic Chang An landscape complex. The captivating and spectacular site of Phong Nha Ke Bang National Park. The mysterious, tranquil ancient temples and towers of My Son Sanctuary. The imperial citadel of Thăng Long, the citadel of the Ho dynasty, the complex of Hue monuments are relics of the glorious royal dynasties in the history of Vietnam. Vietnam is a multi-ethnic country with 54 ethnic groups living together in peace, each having distinctive customs, practices and festivals. The charm of Vietnam lies in its diverse culture, with many World Cultural Heritages recognised by UNESCO, along with the selective absorption of World Cultural Quintessence. Vietnam is the common home to millions of religious followers. Besides major religions such as Buddhism, Catholicism, Protestantism, Islam and indigenous religions such as Caodaism and Hoa Hao, new religions and beliefs keep coming in, contributing to the country's multicolour religious picture and the diverse spiritual life of the Vietnamese. In Vietnam, religious activities are freely carried out under Vietnamese laws and are respected and protected. Coming to Vietnam, one shall not resist the distinctive culinary features, the dishes that have become art and nostalgia to tourists and those living away from home. Those are the time-honoured tastes and flavours of the Viet culinary heaven. Since the launch of Doi Moi reform in 1986, Vietnam has recorded outstanding achievements in economic development, with high and steady growth rate, robust trade and swift transformation of economic structure, with the industrial and service sectors accounting for over 80% of the country's GDP. The flourishing market economy has enabled Vietnam to advance steadily on the path of industrialisation, modernisation and extensive international integration. Not only the world's top rice exporter, Vietnam has made itself one of the world's leading exporters of a variety of other products, such as tea, coffee, pepper, cashew nuts, fishery and aquaculture products, garments and textiles, which have secured a firm foothold in markets across the globe. Vietnam is restructuring its economy towards green and sustainable growth, with focus on the application of advanced technologies. The government of Vietnam attaches great importance to infrastructure investment and modernisation, considering it as the foundation for development, with a view to generating the most favourable links for sustainable growth across the country. Taking pride in its ideal geographical location, its world's 14th largest market with over 90 million people, 60% of whom are under 25 years of age, that forms the backbone of the country's skilled workforce, stable business environment and enabling legal framework for enterprises to thrive. Vietnam offers promising business opportunities for foreign investment and has become a destination of choice for many of the world's leading corporations. Pursuing a foreign policy of independence, self-reliance for peace, cooperation and development through diversification and multilateralization of external relations and proactive international integration, being a reliable friend and partner of all countries and a responsible member of the international community. Vietnam has recorded significant achievements after 3 decades of reform, maintaining a peaceful, stable and favourable environment for development, firmly safeguarding national sovereignty and territorial integrity, and taking its international position to a new height.
Diplomatic relations between the United States and Vietnam have come a long way since the two countries ended their 20-year war in 1975. Formal relations have been reinstated, trade agreements signed, and in May 2016, the US even agreed to lift a decades-old embargo on arms trade. So, as the two countries shift from enemies to allies, we wanted to know, just how powerful is Vietnam? Well, geographically, Vietnam is fairly small. At 130,000 square miles, the country is just larger than the US state of New Mexico. But despite its size, it boasts a population of more than 90 million, making it the 14th most populous country in the world. As a longtime communist state, Vietnam has traditionally been closed off to the West. But over the last several decades, it's introduced a number of modern economic and social reforms. Since the mid-1980s, the country has steadily moved away from a centrally planned system by encouraging private business and free trade. In the 1990s, it halted requests for compensation for war crimes from the US, and in turn, the US partially lifted its trade embargo, which had decimated Vietnam's economy. This, coupled with aid from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, boosted the country's economy by roughly 8% a year. Today, Vietnam's GDP is more than $180 billion, compared with just $6 billion in 1990. The country also benefits from its membership in the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, which fosters economic growth in the region. Vietnam also is a key player in the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, which is a proposed free trade deal between the US and 11 other countries. Vietnam is far from the largest market in the deal, and yet the country is slated to benefit the most. Its GDP is expected to surge by 10% before 2030. What's more, the deal may be an antidote for Vietnam's weakening ties with its biggest trade partner, China. The US hopes that the TPP will eventually end Vietnam's dependence on China for trade, leaving them to revert to their second largest trade partner, the United States. And the US isn't the only country with an interest in Vietnam. Japan, Australia, Singapore, and the Philippines have all recently strengthened their defense ties, with the goal of creating a counterweight to the growing threat of China. The alliance is crucial to Vietnam, as the country has a limited defense budget and dated Soviet-era equipment. Vietnam does boast an army of roughly 5.5 million, trumping many of its powerful neighbors like Japan and South Korea. In the US and abroad, it seems that all eyes are on Vietnam. This newfound attention not only reflects the country's undeniable potential, but its transformation over the last few decades. Although there's still room for improvement, particularly in human rights and the environment, there's no question that Vietnam is well on its way to becoming very, very powerful.